Dear all, my regards to each one of you. It is an honor and a privilege for all of us here that we have Swami Shailendra Saraswati there with us. Moving on, Swamiji, if we were just to take into consideration this field of spirituality, we seem to have so many religions, and all those religions themselves, they seem to be working at cross purposes. The kind of bloodshed that we have seen probably in the last 1500 years, that speaks about the sorry state of affairs in which religion has actually ended itself. When there is no uniformity, even in this field of religion, how can we expect that religion can bring happiness to this troubled world? It can bring smiles to difficult faces. What are your views on that?
It's a very good question, and basically it depends upon the meaning of the word religion. What happens is, over time, the same word which was used to connote a particular idea, over time that connotation keeps on changing. The very meaning of the word religion is ligare, means to bind, to connect, and re means to reconnect, religion. Our small consciousness, which has got disconnected from that universal consciousness, that needs to be reconnected to it, and the process of doing that is religion. And since there is only one process, so there is only one religion. But on the superficial levels, different spiritual masters in different times, they have said the same truth. They have taught the same process of connecting the small consciousness to the universal consciousness, but the languages have been different. The traditions that have accumulated around that, they are different. So, the word spirituality, it comes from the word spirit. Spirit means essence of something. The essence, the basic idea of all religions is the same, and that is to re-ligare, to connect again. On the superficial level, there may be different dress patterns, there may be different festivals, there may be different colors that different religions prefer. So all those things are very superficial things. And the fighting is at that superficial level. Because people have forgotten how to connect themselves to that common spirituality, the common religion. That is why there are differences. But as soon as all the religions become successful in their own quests, Christianity says kingdom of heaven is within you, you access that and everything else will be provided to you. But if we are able to access that kingdom of heaven within ourselves, then as a Christian I will become a better Christian. But it is the same thing that is said in Vedic literature. It says Paramatma, our own deepest self, get connected to that. Same is said in Islam. Khud means self, and the small part of our self is Khudi, and the universal part of that same self is Khuda. So Khudi becomes Khuda. Khudi ko kar buland itna, you know that. So all religions are saying the same thing, only the technique which was there to connect the small consciousness to the big consciousness, that technique over time got lost. And the moment this technique is again spread in the world, then every religion will realize its own goals, and the goal being common, the differences would vanish.
Thank you, Swamiji. Beautiful answer. I believe that quite a few clouds, they would really have gone away from my mind. Coming to the next question of Dhyan and meditation, Swamiji, do you genuinely think that if people across the globe, they are meditating, the poverty, the strife, the malnutrition, the problems of terrorism that we are facing in the world now, can these problems go away if people, they start meditating, if they start becoming comfortable with themselves? But on an explicit level, on the worldly level, can there be a manifestation of these problems going away?
When all these problems are gone, we are thinking in terms of a utopia basically. When there are no problems, everybody has all their wishes fulfilled, and everybody is happy in unison with each other. And normally people say that we have never actually achieved utopia in history, so how can we expect that utopia can be created now? No. But maybe we are not looking at the right place. There is a utopia present now. Only we have to realize this body, for example, is composed of billions of cells, and all these cells are so different from each other. The bone cell is very hard, the skin cell is very soft. And if all the cells would become similar, if all the cells become bone cells or skin cells, then I won't be able to do anything. So in an evolved organism, the differences have to be there. But you can see that there is utopia among all the citizens of this country, which is human physiology. They work so well in unison with each other, they help each other, bone cells don't fight with skin cells. Why does that happen? Who is there who is programming and who is telling each cell that, oh, you should help this cell and you should help that cell? The reason is that the action of the cell takes place at the surface of the cell. And whenever any action has to take place, the surface of the cell sends RNA to its own deepest center. And in the nucleus of the cell, there is a DNA. And then the DNA gives the command to the cell what it has to do. So every cell is connected to its own deepest cell. And because even though on the surface the cells are very different, but each of those cells, whether it's a bone cell or a skin cell, they have in their own nucleus the same DNA. So when any cell reaches out to its own DNA, it's actually reaching out to the DNA of each cell. And therefore, the answers that come from the DNA will only be those answers which can be helpful for all cells of the body. Exactly the same thing, different individuals in the world are like different cells, and all that is needed is that each of these cells gets connected to its own deepest innermost cell, and that is the process of meditation. So if everybody starts to meditate, everybody will get their answers from the same common source, the common universal consciousness, and there is no place left for any strife or any differences.
Swamiji, one last question from my side, and after that some of my other friends will start putting their doubts to you. Swamiji, it is said that a man can go only on one path, either on the path of spirituality, the kind of path that you have taken for yourself, or on the path of material world, the kind of path that we ordinary individuals, we ordinary mortals, we seem to be living. It is kind of said that in a sheep we can only have one sword. So does it mean that it is the paths of spirituality and the path of modern scientific world, are they incompatible with each other?
It is just like saying that since the root goes downwards and the plant grows upwards, we can have only one thing. Either the plant should go up or the root should go down. In this example of a plant, when the plant is growing, it does grow in completely opposite directions. The plant is growing upwards, the root is going downwards. But they are necessary for each other. The plant cannot go high unless the root goes deep. And the reverse is also equally true. The root cannot go deep unless the plant supplies its energy by becoming taller. So, outward progress, material progress, that is like the plant growing outward, which is visible. And spiritual progress is like the root going deeper, which is invisible. So, they are very different, they are opposite directions, but they are necessary for each other. In fact, if you want one kind of progress and not the other, then it is very difficult. You cannot have outward progress alone. If there is no support from spiritual progress, then it's bound to create tensions and tiredness, and ultimately all those problems, blood pressure, etc. start to happen. If a person starts to access his own deepest self through spiritual progress, then the outward progress gets a further boost and he can do much more. So they are not opposite to each other. They are actually essential for each other.
But nobody seems to be saying this kind of a thing. Science and scientific researchers and individuals, they seem to be saying, oh, this is the path of spirituality is a path of belief. It is not substantiated by any one single proof. And on the other hand, spiritualists, they are also not coming up openly and accepting that science has got its own validity. So how do we, if it is really as simple as you are putting it out to us, then why is it that not even a very small minority is coming up with this kind of a clarity of thought?
See, as I said, the connection between spirituality and physical world, that is at the source. And anybody who has fathomed that source, either with the material sciences side or from the spiritual side, has realized that both of these are basically saying the same thing in two different languages. All the top scientists, for example, now the most accepted theory of physics is quantum mechanics. And the most famous scientist of quantum mechanics is Schrödinger. And he has written a book which says Mind and Matter. And the conclusion in that book is that every physical thing in the universe is essentially mind stuff. And the next conclusion he says is there is just one mind. Now, this statement is exactly the same as the statement in Vedanta, that all physical reality is basically made up of consciousness and there is just one consciousness. Anybody who has, and then there have been discussions between Einstein and Rabindranath Tagore, and there are beautiful tapes available of that, and they also come to the same conclusion. Anybody who has reached sufficient height in their own field realizes this truth. But of course, as happens in every discipline, people who are below that level, they may have conclusions, but it's well accepted by the elite of